Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Beat On, joined by Donkey Teeth at Donkey Teeth 87 on Twitter. How you doing over there, buddy?
What's up, Edon? Long time no talk.
Yeah, man, we've been busy here leading up to the holiday season, so we've missed a couple of weeks. Sorry about that. As always, if we miss a week, you can always come find us on Twitter and send us your specific start sit questions. But yeah, we're back, man. We're fitting it in right here before the holidays. We get a 1 week reprieve from bye weeks, and then we get bye week hell next week, week 13, as everybody's trying to make playoff pushes, or certain uh, analyst leagues are already in the playoffs. So there's a lot of things happening next week that are going to be very interesting. But let's talk about this week. And I know you actually said that you had some kind of interesting fantasy tidbit to discuss here at the beginning of the show. So let's just jump into that, man.
I do. Well, first of all, I didn't take last week off. Bobby jumped in and we did a live show.
Okay.
And I told everybody to start Joe Burrow last week. So you're welcome for that.
I would have told everybody to start Jalen Waddle and would have been not quite as bad, but also not great. So
Yeah.
I can't really blame you on that.
I guess at least my two top starts weren't Joe Burrow and Mark Andrews. But yeah, pretty rough out for the season. Tough news there. But yeah, apologies for that, everyone. Anyway, yeah, we haven't talked in a couple of weeks, so we were just catching up before we jumped on, and you were telling me about the trip you took on the Robert Trent Jones trail down there in Alabama, which sounded awesome for any golfers out there. But yeah, my news, and actually this may have happened before the last time we talked, and it's just like gets lost in everything. But I'm going to Scottsdale in 3 weeks. One of my buddies and I pooled together on DraftKings. We've been doing this for 2 years now. I think we may have talked about this a little bit last year. DraftKings Rainmakers. It's NFT based daily fantasy essentially, and just like very high level rundown of how this works. They sell packs for anybody that's like familiar with NBA Top Shot back in the day. They sell these packs of digital cards, and you can buy them for like there's different tiers, like from core, which has like massive supply, all the way up to like the Rainmaker tier, which there's only like 5 or 10 of a player in that tier. And so you pull whatever cards if you get them at the drop, and then there's a secondary market and you can trade them, and DraftKings takes the ridiculous 10% cut and all that. But then they have contests, all these different contests and all these different tiers, and there's no buy-in for the contest. Your buy-in is just owning these digital cards. And most of the lineups you're constructing using 5 of these cards that you own. And so it's really an interesting dynamic of like being able to what I really like about it is like if you have a strong feeling on a player like before the season, you could theoretically go buy like 20 of their cards and like play it passively, and it's like a way to invest in guys, more concrete than playing 50 different fantasy teams, right, to get your shares. But anyway, that's the high level. They've got all of these different contests every week. Like typically there's like $100,000 prize pool for the big contest we play each week, and it's like 20,000 to first or something like that. And the nice thing, it's not like daily fantasy where it's like super efficient and you're playing against all these computers, because the supply of the cards is super limited, and it hasn't taken off to the point where it's like you're going up against all these different algorithms and stuff like that are buying cards and constructing lineups. And I don't even know if that's really possible with the number of card supply that there is. So anyway, we took first place in a qualifier contest for their big live event, which is in 3 weeks in Scottsdale. And it's $1 million prize pool, 250,000 to first, and there's only 50 qualifiers. And they pay for you to fly out to Scottsdale, free round of golf, 4 days paid at the Biltmore Resort there, and that's the course we're playing. And then there's like some shopping experience included, all kinds of food events, and it's gonna be wild. I don't really know what to expect, but everybody gets together for the games that day, and you basically watch the contest and watch the leaderboard, and somebody's gonna win 250,000, and whoever gets in 50th still wins $5,000. So it's like we're gonna walk away with something and it's gonna be a blast. But yeah, I mean, it feels like something I need to tell you about. Like it's wild, right?
That is pretty crazy. That's awesome that you've made it to the finals and that you're getting flown out. When you said Arizona, I was like, is he going to the Waste Management? Like that'd be pretty awesome. But man, that's really cool. Right? If you take down first, I feel like I should get like a 1% cut of the winnings or something just for being here.
Yeah, we'll get together and go golfing finally.
There you go. That would be nice. You know, we met I guess it was a few years ago now in Vegas with Gray. So yeah, it would be nice to do a full meetup, and Billy was there too. So it was nice. I don't know if the fantasy side knows who Billy is, but he was part of the comedy news podcast.
He's a comedian, which Gray is essentially too.
Yeah. That was the show that made me realize I'm not comedian funny. I'm like whatever the next step is below, because like professionals at any level are just better at what they do than the rest of us, including comedians, because they just had jokes and things to say on tap all the time. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the podcast stuff. DT, we said we were going to try and keep it to 30 minutes. I think we've already wasted a third of that.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, we're going to have to walk through this a little bit quicker, but you know, it is what it is. It's the holiday break, so we got people traveling. I'm sure they won't care if we go a little long here. Let's start with the biggest thing, since you mentioned it off the top with Joe Burrow. He's out for the season. Now, what does that do for you for the rest of these players? I mean, we're talking about, start sit. So it's more geared towards this week, but really we're kind of talking rest of season here, because week to week, you're going to have to make the same decision with these guys. We'll get a little bit more information as we, understand how the offense looks without him. But for now, we're kind of in this place where, Mixon, maybe he pretty much stays the same. Like the touches probably go up, but the quality of touches may go down. But where are you at on the big players here? We're going to start with like Chase and Mixon. Those are the two must starts every week, and then we'll get into some of the others. I mean, Higgins used to be in that discussion, but I don't even know if we can put him there anymore.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all of that. I think everybody's got to take at least a little bit of hit, because the offense is not going to be as potent. They were a top tier offense. They just really rounded into form. So yeah, it sucks owning these guys, but I do think that there's a little bit of an opportunity here if your trade deadline hasn't passed, because as much as I'm saying you got to downgrade these guys, I think there's an overreaction naturally on Jamar Chase, and to a lesser extent Joe Mixon. I think there's a real buying opportunity on Jamar Chase. He's such a special talent, and Browning did not look bad to me. He actually looked pretty comfortable. So I don't think he's going to come in and be terrible. I think this is still going to be a solid offense, and I still expect Jamar Chase to be, probably about wide receiver 10 rest of the season. And I think he's being downgraded into like the wide receiver 2 area as an overreaction. So Jamar Chase remains a must start for me personally. Joe Mixon, fringe must start. Probably you're still starting him. Higgins, I agree with you. Probably a little bit of an overreaction there, but you'll kind of wait and see. He probably falls into the kind of flex bucket, or keep him on your bench until we see what he looks like with Browning, and then the rest of the guys just forget about him.
Yeah, I mean Higgins obviously has been injured, so he's been out. But even before that, he had already kind of moved into that like flex territory where the talent's there, the upside's there, but like the production had been so hit and miss. They were really focusing on getting Chase involved. Mixon has been involved all year. So Higgins is going to kind of remain in that territory even once he returns. It sounds like he may be able to make a return this week, but that hasn't been 100% stated. Tyler Boyd, I think, falls into just a kind of a flyer territory where maybe if the slot matchup is right, you go with that. I think maybe the winners here are Trent Irwin, the great Trent Irwin, and Tanner Hudson, both of who got a lot more looks once they made the switch to Browning, Trent Irwin got, I think, the most looks after Browning came in, and Tanner Hudson has slowly been taking over the tight end position from Irv Smith, but it seemed like, his time with the second unit may have given him a little connection with Browning as well.
Yeah, interesting take. I mean, it is true. It's just I don't think they're gonna score that much, so it's tough to feed that many mouths. But yeah, I mean, Irwin has looked good the past couple weeks, to be honest. So
yeah, I think
deep league guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost to the point where I would start Irwin. Actually, no, I'm not almost. I am. I'm to the point I would start Irwin
Over Higgins.
over Boyd. Higgins is close because we haven't seen him in a few weeks, but even his first week back, I'm probably going to feel more comfortable with Irwin. I just think there's a little bit of a rapport there that they know where each other's going to be, and like it's just kind of working. Hudson is just a deep league flyer tight end that you pick up, and maybe if there's a connection, you can eventually start. Not looking at that one, but if you're looking at a tough week 13, I think you could maybe do worse than looking at Trent Irwin as a flyer, because there's going to be 6 teams on bye in week 13, and there's going to be a lot of players missing from those.
Yeah, that's true. 13 is a tough bye week, and it kind of it stings with the industry leagues, ours included, being like the playoffs have started, and now you got to catch this nasty bye week.
It is
Scott Fishbowl. By the way, my Scott Fishbowl team, it's good, man. It's I can't remember where I'm ranked, but top 100. So that's a pretty good season with that many teams.
Yeah, I think I missed the playoffs by like a little bit of points. My team really just started to round into shape. So like in a standard league, I would be ready. Like my team is now ready for the playoffs. But in the Scott Fishbowl, your team needs to hit the ground running from the beginning. And then in the Razzball, of course, the playoffs have started. I missed that one by like 10 spots on the overall ranking. So I was a little disappointed in that. I think this is the first year I've actually missed the playoffs in the Razzball. So my track record of performing well in that fell this year a little bit, partially due to some injuries. It just didn't work out.
I actually finished the regular season 12th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know we have a few good Razzball teams from the Razzball crew. I remember seeing Rudy up there for a long time, although it won't be. I don't think it's under Gamble if you're looking at the rankings specifically. But I think Rudy was up there. I want to say Stan was up there, and some others. So I hope somebody from the Razzball crew can finish this one up strong.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just got stung by this Kenneth Walker injury that we're going to talk about, and then I had some bye week issues for the first week. Fortunately, the way that Razzball works, it's like a 3-week first round of the playoffs, so I haven't been relegated to the consolation bracket yet, but it was a tough first week, and then I still got more buys coming next week, like we talked about. I lied. I'm 371 in Scott Fishbowl, which feels like top 100 because there's so many damn teams, but I went 18-4, put up a pretty good point total. I'm like 30 points composite behind the first place team, so right in the hunt. I got a really good team.
Very nice.
Hopefully, can stay healthy there.
I say stay healthy, avoid those bye weeks, bring home something for the crew.
Lost Kenneth Walker there too, but I had some depth. So
yeah, like I said, my Scott Fishbowl team would be a very strong competitor if I had made it now. But most of the season I was facing too many injuries. Let's move on to Green Bay, where Jayden Reed had 3 rushes for 46 yards and touchdowns with 4 receptions for 46 yards. It was a thing where it was kind of a flyer because he wasn't getting the snaps, but that's turned around now in the last, 2 weeks ago, or I guess the previous week he had 51%, and then this week he's at 69%. Giggity. Second in the team on snaps. So is Jayden Reed becoming the alpha in the Green Bay receiving core?
I really think it's Dubs that is, and I like Dubs last year, but I think Dubs is the alpha. I'm not a believer. I think it's a tough situation there because I don't think there's a huge separation between Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, and even Wicks, the other rookie, Dontavian Wicks. And you can throw Dubs into that mix too. Like I like him more, but really it's kind of throw all of them together, and who knows who it's going to be on any given week. So I think it's really hard to confidently start any of these guys personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dobbs is the receiver. Like, so when they need a throw and catch, I think Dobbs runs the cleanest routes and has the best hands. I think they're just realizing that Jayden Reed is just a playmaker, and they're trying to get him the ball in as many ways as they can. I mean, he had 4 attempts. I mean, that's more than like Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon were getting in some games. So, I mean, giving him 4 rush attempts in a game, it kind of seems like a Debo situation where he's not their best running back and he's not their best receiver, but he's the best playmaker potentially at both. So I think Reed is maybe not the alpha receiver in the room, but I do think he's entering that, wide receiver 3, flex 1 territory where you almost have to run him out there just for the potential upside that he's bringing. And the fact that the stats are coming along is making me feel even better. He's leading all receivers, all weapons from Green Bay over the last 3 weeks in fantasy points. So I guess I'm more into Jayden Reed than you are.
Sounds like it. He actually, fun fact, he's from the town that I live in right now, Naperville.
Very nice.
Yeah, there you go. We should also mention Aaron Jones is hurt. I don't think he's officially been ruled out this week, but I'd be shocked if he plays. So that makes A.J. Dillon very startable.
If he plays, he's also banged up.
Oh, is he? I didn't see he was on.
Yeah, he's dealing with a growing issue. He was a limited participant yesterday, so we're gonna see what that looks like. They brought in my favorite, James Robinson, this week, I believe, or maybe last week, as a practice squad guy. So if they're both hurt, we could see the return of my boy James Robinson to the football field as a starter. But we'll just have to monitor that as we kind of get into it. It's still early for reports for us, but it is the Thursday game. So
he's had 2 limited practices. I just looked, so that's a positive sign. But yeah, James Robinson is definitely a deep league flyer right now. I'm gonna go look and see if he's available in my dynasty league, because he is that kind of guy that he just feels like you just throw him in any situation and he can go off, like just the random.
Just randoms, yeah. The random pop-ups. Like Raheem Mostert before last couple of years, those types where they just kind of show up and then all of a sudden they're getting 15 carries and a couple of other touches, and it just works out. But just monitor that. I'm sure it seems like A.J. Dillon is probably going to play, given that he's gotten, a couple of limited practices in, and it's a short week, so it's not really that surprising that he wouldn't full practice at all. Aaron Jones seems like he's out, so
yeah,
we'll see what happens there.
All right, I've secured James Robinson live on the show. I just dropped Samaje Perine.
Very nice, very nice.
First.
Perine hasn't been doing much either. They've pretty much stopped giving him.
He had 7 catches last week. He caught all 7 of his targets.
So wild. Random. Yeah. Tank Dell has been on a crazy run in the last 3 weeks. Each week he's had at least 10 targets. He's at 100 yards in 2 out of 3, and he's had 4 touchdowns over that 3-week run. Noah Brown is a little banged up, but he's also had big games before he was injured. And Nico is still there doing his thing. He's not been quite as explosive as he was early in the season, but Tank Dell has been amazing. And I think, depending on your scoring, at least a top 5 player over this time period. What are you doing with Tank Dell? Is he climbing the ranks to elite? Is he just climbing to like a must-start wide receiver 2? Is he a flex play? Where are you willing to move Tank Dell to?
Must-start wide receiver 2. I mean, there's an argument for back-end wide receiver 1 for sure. He's definitely must-start in my book. He's been great the whole year. He got banged up early in the season himself. So, I've got him on this dynasty team that I just picked up James Robinson. So I'm pretty in the Tank Dell loop. I drafted him. He had a really nice preseason. And then week 2, he went off for 7 catches, 72 yards and a touchdown. Week 3, he had 5 for 145 and a touchdown. Then he got banged up, I believe, in week 4, tried to play through it, and he had 2 kind of down weeks. Missed week 6, had bye week 7, came back a little slow, and now he's gone off for 3 straight nice games. I'm not like it's hard to doubt CJ Stroud, right? Like he's looked really good, but I'm not ready to like crown him the next Joe Burrow or anything. Like he certainly could be. I want to see like a little bit more. And he had his first like rough start last week, still put up the numbers. So he absolutely could be a Joe Burrow caliber. And I think a lot of people are already putting him kind of in that group and crowning him. I want to see a little bit more. And I think that's kind of my hesitation to move Tank Dell into like wide receiver 1 territory. But who really cares? You know, he's must start either way. He's putting up the numbers. God, he's had 35 targets in the last 3 weeks. So, like, get him in your lineup, man.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, he's a must start because of what he's been doing. Like when somebody's on a run like this, you just can't ignore it. In regards to CJ Stroud, I'm not putting him in a Mahomes, Burrow tier yet. It's his first year. We've seen a number of quarterbacks look very good their first year, and then kind of settle into where they're gonna be. So he looks very good. There's no question about that. I'm not putting him in the elite tier of quarterbacks just yet. And with that, I don't think he maintains 3 receivers. I think part of what led to Tank Dell is, kind of as I mentioned, Noah Brown's been banged up for a couple of games. Nico missed a game and has kind of been banged up. So he's doing this at a time where the rest of the receiving core isn't at their best. So I'm not willing to put him into wide receiver 1. That being said, I think wide receiver 2 for him is appropriate at this point and a must start, even in situations where maybe you have like a like a Mike Evans and maybe even like a Puka, and then you have him. Like I would still be starting him probably over Puka given just the situation and how hot he's been. Like that's a situation people are looking at. I have a guillotine league, and that's different because the player pool gets better and better every week. But if you have him, it's really hard to sit him down the way that he's been playing.
Yeah, this week I've got him at number 15. He's ranked right in this group of like DJ Moore, Olave, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Smith, Thielen, and Puka. So, yeah, he's right there. I think we're like 100% on the same page on this one, B-Don, which is very rare on this show.
It used to be normal, and now it's become more rare as we've gone on. And I think Nico Collins, since we brought him up, assuming he, everything's good there, which it seems like it is, I think he probably falls into the back end wide receiver 2. Just like he's been still very consistent, just hasn't had the big weeks. But I also expect that to improve a little bit as he gets healthier and healthier. Moving on to San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk continued success, even though Debo returned this week. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 156 yards, and a touchdown. I was having this discussion with my buddy Steven over on Sunday when we were watching the game. Who's the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco? And we both kind of agreed. We think it's Brandon Ayuk now, and Debo's the 2 with like the gadget stuff.
Oh yeah, I don't even think it's a discussion. I feel like that's something that 2 stoners sit there talking about, and
I mean, very possible.
The rest of the world's like, this is not even a discussion. Well, I mean, Debo has been the guy in the past, but it's like so obviously Ayuk, right? Ayuk is like absolute wide receiver 1. He's really this season kind of catapulted himself fringe, like that elite group. He's like right there on the fringe of the, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown tier with AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill. So yeah, I don't think it's that close. Of course, any given week, right, it could flip in San Francisco and we could see Debo go off. But yeah, Debo is more of like back end wide receiver 2 at this point for me.
Yeah, I mean that's totally fair. I would say that Debo's been a little banged up this year, so it's maybe not been a completely even contest when we're looking at it. Debo was very successful early in the season. Ayuk has become more successful at the end. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, I
also,
think
like,
it's
how many games has Debo played with Purdy, right? Like, Ayuk and Purdy clearly have the chemistry, right? And I think just because Debo's been banged up so much, like, that's not there either. And Ayuk has really come into his own. I think you were a little bit higher on Ayuk coming into his career than I was, and it seems that you kind of nailed that.
yeah, I've always loved Brandon Ayuk. I mean, I think I had him. I think he was one of my first like ridiculously ranked wide receivers coming out of college, where it was like, I have him way higher than consensus. What's going on here?
Mhm.
And he's finally started to show the promise that, I mean, not only me, I think a lot of people saw in him. And yeah, over the last 3 weeks, he's really kicked it on. There was a little bit of down period there where he was kind of sitting in the 60 to 75 range for a few games, but he's really turned it on. And again, that happened kind of with the Debo injury. So I think Ayuk is climbing into that back end wide receiver one conversation. I don't know that he is entrenched there yet until we see a little bit more of the combo of both of them being out there and both fully healthy. But again, yeah, I think Ayuk is entering that same conversation of like, how do you put him on the bench at this point?
Yeah, it sounds like I'm a little bit more confident in that, but you make fair
No,
points.
I love I love his talent. I believe he's showing it. It's just not an overly pass heavy offense, and it's been a little bit of a situation where there wasn't another wide receiver there. So that's my only concerns. Still love Brandon Ayuk. Khalil Shakir, since week 8 when his playing time went up, he's had the most yards among receivers and second in receptions for the Bills. Is Khalil Shakir becoming somebody that needs to be discussed more? I don't know that he's necessarily in this discussion of where we're talking about these guys, the last few guys, but I think he's entering, a conversation of where he needs to be owned in every league.
He should be owned. I've had him in the fishbowl for a bit. He popped a few weeks ago and he got a bunch of targets from Josh Allen. It's still a tough situation, though. There's I don't think there's enough to go around. The Bills' offense, first of all, hasn't looked great. Not that I believe that that's going to continue. I think they're the Bills and they get it straightened out. But you got Diggs, you got Gabe Davis, and Kincaid is really looking like a phenomenal tight end, isn't he? So those three guys are ahead of him, and he kind of gets the leftover scraps and gets to share it with whoever else they decide to throw out there. But I do like. Is it really Shaker? It's got to be Shakir.
It's
I feel
probably
like
Shakir.
it's got to be. But yeah, I think he's should be rostered, but I don't think I'm starting him. Like I think he's more of a desperation play, like maybe a flex in three wide receiver deeper leagues kind of thing for me.
All right, let me throw some guys at you for Khalil then.
For
And,
this
and
week or rest of season?
we'll go with this week since everybody's playing. It's kind of same. I feel like I will say I think he's climbing into like a tie at 2 with Davis. Just I
Yeah, that's
feel like
fair.
Gabe Davis is so limited in what he does. He's very good at the two things that he does, but that's it. So I will say maybe I'm a little bit higher on him, but yeah, let me throw some names at you. Uh, Shakir or your boy Romeo Dobbs.
Dobbs.
Uh, how about Jamison Williams, who started to show his comeback in Detroit?
Shakir there. I really do like Jamison Williams, but need to see a little bit more from him.
Yeah, I would agree. I love Jamison Williams. I think the talent is going to show up, and it seems like he's pulling his head out of his rear recently. So all that in the right
Famous last
direction.
words.
But but yeah, I'm going with Khalil in that one. Um, how about early season success, Curtis Samuel?
Hmm. I think it's Shakir there for me. Yeah, Samuel has he's really been kind of a ghost lately, hasn't he?
He has cooled off considerably. They just haven't been using him in the same manner they were earlier. Maybe they just feel more confident in the offense, and they don't need him to run as many gimmicks. But yeah, he's really cooled off. All right, so it seems like we have a fairly good range for where he is. I think that's somewhere in like the 40 to 50 range among receivers, if I'm guessing, which puts him in like that flex territory. I think if he overcomes Gabe Davis, then he becomes a lot more interesting. But somebody who needs to be rostered, and just wanted to bring him up because he's earned it. He like I said, he has the most yards since his playing time, made the uptick for the Bills, and he's second in receptions, even though he's third in targets.
He's talented. He's a talented player too. I think we both liked him coming out of last year's draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about these three confusing running back situations that have developed here. I was going to talk about them independently, but they all kind of fit in the same boat here. We have Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Buffalo. Pittsburgh, I mean, Jaylen Warren looked amazing. Still only 9 carries. Still second to Najee in snaps. The Baltimore running backs, that's Gus, Keaton Mitchell, Justice Hill, and then the Buffalo running backs, James Cook, Latavius Murray, Ty Johnson. Let's start in Pittsburgh where Jaylen looks good. It seems like he should be getting more touches, but Pittsburgh is just, they're dead set on being a 50-50 running team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take a couple victory laps here on these first two, and we can just forget about all the stuff that I was wrong about this year. Jaylen Warren was a guy that I was all over preseason. He looked really good in the preseason. I never kind of backed off this idea that he was going to overtake Najee, and I mean, he just looks so much better. He's just the more explosive running back. No offense to Najee, he's a fine NFL running back too, but he just doesn't look as good as Jaylen Warren. And I think Warren has got to start to get a little bit more of that workload. But as we've seen, he can do it even on the limited numbers. He is really a very explosive player. So I was kind of all over that one, and I do prefer Jaylen Warren. I've actually been saying it for a few weeks that I liked Warren more than Najee. So victory lap number one there. And then I don't know if you remember, like 5-6 weeks ago, I threw out Keaton Mitchell while he was still injured, and he didn't play for like the next 2 weeks still. And you kind of laughed at me. So Keaton Mitchell looks very explosive himself. To me, if there's a guy I want to own in that backfield, it is Keaton Mitchell, but less confident in that situation than Jaylen Warren, just because I don't think Gus is going away. Of course, you've got Lamar Jackson stealing some touchdowns, some of the rushing touchdowns and rushing work, even though it's to a lesser extent. I think that they don't want him to run as much, right, at this stage in his career. And then Justice Hill does vulture too. So less excited about Keaton, but he does look really good, and he's the guy that I would want there. And then Buffalo, it's got to be James Cook. I mean, it is a little annoying if you own James Cook, which I don't. But like, why they got to give the ball to Latavius Murray and Ty Johnson, right? Can't James Cook handle a little bit more of that workload? And then same situation as Lamar, right? Josh Allen he's gonna vulture a little bit naturally there. So that's my assessment on those three. Beat on. Over to you.
All right. Well, I'm gonna throw some cold water on your congratulating yourself there.
Oh, come on, man.
Jaylen Warren's been good. Certainly, you didn't have to overdraft him necessarily, but he's still in a game that he was clearly playing better. Still had less touches and less snaps. So like that, there's just limits on how far you can really move him up your rankings when we're just trying to put him in there. As good as he is on a per snap, if he's not getting that many snaps, that many touches, it's just going to limit the upside. Plus, he plays in a just awful offense.
True. That's a fair point. I mean, really, he's like a back end RB2. So, yeah, I don't want to say that I've called the diamond in the rough breakout RB1 or anything like that. There is the potential, though, right? If Najee were to get hurt, which we did that to David Montgomery, and we turned Gibbs into that diamond in the rough.
Yeah, but we called that one like
we did. We called it early, and you also had to
ago.
spend like a 3rd-round draft pick on Gibbs. So
yeah, it was a little bit different in that situation. I think in Baltimore, you got ahead of the Keaton Mitchell pickups. That being said, you still can't start him. Like,
I think
ever.
He's startable. I think he's like a flex
Can
play.
you?
Yeah, I think so. I've got him ranked at number 35 running back this week. So take that for, that's startable to me. I mean, you're not like super excited about it, right? He can totally shit on your team, but it's tough out there.
Yeah, I mean, he has yet to get 10 rushes in any single game. He has yet to top 1 reception in any single game. Those 2 numbers make it real difficult to put him in a starter role.
You're not going to start him in a PPR.
Like next week, maybe you may have to run him out next week in week 13. I think in any general week, you're starting Gus, and that's probably about it from this backfield, though.
Yeah, you're not going to start him in PPR. The floor is just too low relative to, these receivers that you can run out there and guarantee yourself, 4 or 5 catches or something like that. But standard leagues kind of thing.
Yep. And then in Buffalo, I mean, it's James Cook. If you're starting one, I think that's pretty safe. I mean, he's getting the most snaps. He's getting the most touches. That all seems pretty straightforward. What I'll say is, Latavius Murray had 10 carries in this game, and Ty Johnson had 3 receptions. So I just wonder if the Bills themselves want James Cook to be the guy. He's fine. He's been fine all season. He hasn't really shown anything wrong. He's not the greatest blocker, and he's also not the greatest receiver of the ball. So I think that's where we just get Ty Johnson and Latavius being in the game, and I don't necessarily see that going away. So I think James Cook is kind of settled into the role I expect him to play this season. Maybe that goes up next year, but that is somewhere between 50 and 60% of the snaps.
We should also mention here that Leonard Fournette is on that roster or the practice squad, and I imagine that he's only getting stronger and stronger. I don't think Leonard Fournette is done personally, so I think that there's a pretty good chance that Leonard Fournette overtakes Ty Montgomery and Latavius Murray down the stretch here.
Yeah, and it based on what McDermott said, it seems like he's really just trying to wait for him to get the playbook down, because he seems fairly excited about getting him called up. It doesn't seem like they're going to roll with this current three group of running backs. I would assume Latavius is the one that's going to lose out here, but we'll have to wait and see.
Honestly, I think there's a non-zero chance that Fournette becomes the guy, and he's the one getting 50% of the carries as they head into like the fantasy playoffs. So I'm not going to bet on it, but I am rostering Fournette.
Yeah, I've said no before on Fournette and been completely wrong, so I'm not going to say no. I will agree that there's a non-zero chance. I would still put most of my money on James Cook. I think Ty Johnson stays on the team because of his role on special teams, which means Latavius and Fournette are redundant because they're redundant. I mean, they just are. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Fournette, if you can go grab him, I think, there was a push to grab him when everybody was injured. I think he probably got dropped a bunch.
Right.
So if you can grab him now, there is a potential, if you're looking at running back down the line, that he maybe steps into a bigger role.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing to remember on Fournette is that there's a reason why he was Tom Brady's running back. The guy can block, and that can't be overstated. And he's still only 28 years old. It seems like he's like 35, right? But 28, like there's still some juice left in Fournette, I think. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, his knees are about 46, but that's fine.
Well, we got Latavius Murray, who's actually 46.
Coming off of the Buffalo Bills, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills' prior running back, which is Devin Singletary. Last 2 games while Dameon Pierce has been out, and it seems like Dameon Pierce is going to miss at least one more week. He has 262 yards, 52 carries, and 2 touchdowns over the last 2. Devin Singletary has been a legitimate RB1 over the last 2 weeks. As long as Pierce is out, are you willing to keep him in that discussion? Is he just below that in the RB2? And then, what happens when Pierce comes back? Do you think he comes back to his old role, or is he now the lead back there?
I think it ends up being a pretty even split, to be honest. That would be my take right now. I wouldn't be shocked if it leans to Singletary with the way that he's looked. But I'm ranking Singletary probably a little more conservatively than you. He has been great, but I've got him just outside of RB2 this week, so I'm still starting him. Unless you got good running backs, which not many people do. But I not getting super excited on Singletary. Still a little bit reserved.
So where'd you have him? You said
28.
Running back 28
this week. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm guessing that you have Buffalo running back that we just talked about, James Cook above him.
I actually have James Cook just below him.
Okay.
Yeah, Singletary 20 here. You know what? I've got my standard rankings up. Let me get half PPR, a little bit better representation, I would say. I've got Singletary, 29, and James Cook 30. So.
Yeah, that just seems really low for me, given.
Well, let me give you some guys. Jaylen Warren, we already talked about.
I would take Singletary because again, he's getting all the touches.
It's the right area though, right? I got Warren 2 spots ahead.
I think that one's pretty clear.
Really? Well, yeah. I don't.
Again, Singletary's the guy. Warren's 45% the guy. I think that makes a big difference for me.
The expert consensus disagrees with you as well. Experts have Jaylen Warren.
Are idiots.
Oh yeah, Jaylen Warren. They've got him ranked 24, so 3 spots ahead of me. And Singletary, they got it 27, so 2 spots ahead of me. So they're actually a little bit higher on both. Assuming Kyren Williams comes back and plays, you going Singletary or Kyren?
Singletary, 100%.
I've got Kyren 1 spot ahead. Gus Edwards.
I'll go Singletary. Gus is splitting. Same thing.
How about Charbonnet?
It depends on if Kenneth Walker's out or not.
I'm assuming he's out.
Assuming he's out. No, I think I'm still going. No, I'm going with Singletary because I don't want Charbonnet versus San Francisco.
But it doesn't depend. Okay, you love Singletary. We got it.
Yeah,
you liked Singletary his whole career.
I was very high on him coming out of the draft. I was like, he's good enough at his size to be a starting running back. I feel like I've been proven 100% right on that. And I mean, look at what he's done this stretch. He had, again, 112 this week, 150 last week. Do you know what Dameon Pierce's high on the season is?
Tell me, B-Don.
It's 81 yards, and that was on 24 carries. Outside of that 81, his high is 66, and then it's 46. And there's a whole bunch of games that he's sitting in 30-yard range. I think Pierce comes back, and he's the receiving back. I honestly believe that's what his role is.
Devin Singletary is your Khalil Waring of running backs.
Yeah, except that Singletary is good and was drafted in an appropriate place.
I just had to get that in.
Yeah, I know.
We have to talk about Khalil Waring at least one episode every season.
Yeah, I mean, I would say once every three or 4 episodes, his name needs to be brought up. But in fairness to my Khalil Waring,
he looks great without a shirt on, man.
Justin Watson also just led the Chiefs in targets. So my other guy who, he's doing well for an undrafted guy that I called out of nowhere.
He might be, who was it? Aikman, or I think it was Aikman, said that he's now becoming Mahomes' favorite target or some bullshit that these
by default, 100% becoming the best target by default, other than Travis Kelce. Let's move over to Detroit, where David Montgomery came back. This is a situation we've been talking about and monitoring all season. We said eventually Monty's probably going to get banged up. Gibbs is going to take over the lead role. It appears that's what is happening. It's still like a 60-40 split, but it is Gibbs' running back field. It seems like to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Montgomery is the goal line guy. Gibbs is, to me, he's that I don't know like what to call him. He's the guy I want. He's the breakout guy of this season right now, I think. Like, I've got him ranked ridiculously high rest of season. I've got him as my my RB5 rest of season. And I think, shockingly enough, this offense behind this awesome offensive line they have sustains both of these guys as RB1s, which, yeah, I was trying to think back when I was looking at your show notes, like, who was the last pairing that you could really say that about? Maybe you got some names coming to mind. Like, I get stuck on like D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart, but I think Jonathan Stewart was always like RB2 territory. I think these two are better, and it's such a good offensive line. It's a really good offense that Detroit has right now. So I don't. Do you have anybody? First of all, do you agree that they can both be RB1 rest of season? And second of all, do you have a pairing, from the past 10 years that equals these two?
I don't really think RB1. I think one just by default is going to be an RB2, and I would say that's Monty. Again, I think Monty is the type that needs the work, and from a goal line perspective, while he has traditionally been the goal line back, and Detroit showed with Jamal Williams that maybe they want to have a goal line back. I mean, Gibbs is still getting goal line touches. He has a touchdown in the last 4 weeks. Granted, that's Monty missing some time, but like, I don't think it's like, oh, we're inside the 10, Monty's in. Like, I think it's still going to be a split even at that point. So I think Gibbs is the RB1. I think Monty's an RB2. From running back duos, like the best one I can think of, period, is probably back before you and I were playing fantasy, which is like Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, Jamal Charles.
I had Jamal Charles in my mind.
And
who was it?
It was Priest Holmes.
Priest Holmes.
Priest Holmes. Priest Holmes deserved to be the RB1. Don't get me wrong there. Jamal Charles was awesome. Kamara Ingram did it that 1 year. I'm trying to think of who else might have been in that discussion. Like maybe the Giants that year that they did the Bradshaw Ward Jacobs thing. Maybe one of the Sproles seasons, because Sproles in the PPR especially always got a ton of targets. So like you count on just 80 points right off the bat from just PPR from Sproles. But it's really hard to get two RB1s in the same backfield, without some kind of touchdown differential.
Yeah, agreed.
Like one gets all the yards and one gets all the touchdowns, but even that is pretty rare to happen.
Yeah.
We already kind of talked about Charbonnet. I mean, he's going to be the guy in this matchup. While if Kenneth Walker's missing here, it seems like Kenneth Walker's probably not going to play this week, if I had to guess. We kind of already ran off some names with Charbonnet. It seems like you're a little higher on him than I am, though.
I don't know.
Maybe I just don't like the matchup.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe I'm a little bit higher on the Seattle offense in general, which seems like a theme from like the past 2 to 3 years, maybe. Where do I have Charbonnet as a back end RB2. So I actually like fine. Literally 24.
Yeah, I mean, that seems perfectly fine for me. I guess the biggest difference is just, where our ranking of Singletary fits in against him.
Yeah, I get excited when there's any running back that I can start this year.
Yeah. Montgomery. Would you have Montgomery or Singletary?
Montgomery. Yeah, I got
Wow.
Montgomery.
Okay.
Like I told you, I got Montgomery as like a back end RB1. I got him at 14 this week, but rest of season, I have him all the way up at number 10. So
Okay. Just wanted to ask, and then let's real quick one quarterback discussion. Kyler, is he back? I know this is your boy. You've always been a Kyler supporter. I've always been, a slight detractor from him being an elite quarterback, which I feel like I've been kind of right on. But from a fantasy perspective, it's usually pretty good when he's on the field.
yeah, I think he is back. I don't think he's an elite fantasy quarterback. He does have the potential, because the legs are always there, but he's very startable QB1 now. I think he's very quickly gone from being a sketchy upside QB2 to now. I got him number 8 this week, 10 rest of season. So you're looking at him really in that like CJ Stroud, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence area. I got Tua a little bit higher, but yeah, that kind of area.
Okay, I'm actually a little surprised you have Tua higher, given
Not this week against the Jets.
Given your preference for the rushing quarterbacks. So
I mean that offense is just so explosive.
So
you get Tyreek Hill, it's like every week you can bank on.
Oh, it's so nasty. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I would do the same thing. I'm just surprised that you did it.
Fair.
Would you rather have? You said he's in the same category or same tier, Fields or Kyler?
I got Fields just a slight edge.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to throw that. I would be in the same bucket, but just wanted to ask. Let's finish off strong here, DT. I don't know if you wrote any down for this week.
I've got one.
Okay. Asshole of the week. Let's go, DT. Who you got?
Well, I think you can just bucket all of the Chargers wide receivers, but specifically, I don't know if you saw the play that Keenan Allen, the sun was in his eyes at Lambeau or something, but it was in the end zone. The pass, perfect pass. He's wide open, smacks him right in the middle of the chest.
Literally right above the center numbers. Like
they lost by 4.
Yeah, that was brutal. I'm going to a similar one, which is the Chiefs wide receiver room, and specifically Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Mahomes did everything that you wanted him to lead that comeback. Like the ball couldn't have been placed any better in his hands, and Scantling did his Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Quentin Johnston, Nelson Aguilar thing and just booted the ball. And then I'm going to give a secondary award to the entire Bears defense for just coughing up what should have been a win for the Bears. Now, granted, I want us to get the best draft pick possible because our team is still horrendous. I would love for us to have the first and second pick in this upcoming draft. That being said, good Lord, Bears defense. Good Lord. You gave up 17 points in the fourth quarter, 14 in the second quarter. Like, you can't close out a half. What is going on? This is ridiculous. Like, and I hate that it gives Justin Fields a bad rap because all of a sudden he's put in the place where well, crap, now we got to come back and win this game. And like, it shouldn't have been that way.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like deja vu with the Bears. Like, it's the third or fourth time, definitely the third, maybe fourth time this season where they've just like totally crumbled in the second half, specifically the fourth quarter. It's like the game was over, man. Like
it was over. Nobody thought. I mean, I guess as a Bears fan, we can't ever say nobody thought, but like it was over. We had the win, and then it was like, oh, they got a touchdown. That's okay. Oh, they got a field goal. That's okay. Oh crap! There it goes. Here it goes again. I've seen some stats about Justin Fields having some third down and some trailing or fourth quarter issues. Like he's been put in terrible positions all year. His whole career in Chicago has been just one terrible position after the other. I'm not blaming Justin Fields. That being said, if the Bears decide to trade him and draft a new quarterback in this upcoming draft where we have the first and second pick, I'm also not going to be terribly disappointed. Because it is what it is. Our offense is terrible.
Yep. There's so much potential, though. It's just really.
I love Justin Fields. I still want him as our quarterback, but if the front office decides And part of having a rookie quarterback is having the contract. So, we're 2 years away from having to pay Justin Fields serious money, potentially. I could see us going in a different direction if we got the first and second pick.
I think you got to. It'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, either that or we got to trade them both and get just a stupid number of picks to address the mountain of needs that our whole team has.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's enough of us complaining about our Bears. I'm sure people turned off after we stopped talking about the true assholes of the week, but that is what it is. As always,
we're the assholes of the week, Peter.
We are. We missed a couple weeks. I guess I missed a couple weeks, so apologies for that. If you have specific questions, like I said at the beginning, find us on Twitter. I am at RazBdon, and DT is at DonkeyTeeth87. You can put them in the comments section of articles on Razzball, or you can put them in the comments on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy, where these videos get posted. Until next week, DT, good luck in your matchups. Hopefully you can continue to move on in the Scott Fish and in the Razzball. And I'll talk to you next week, bud.
Sounds good. Happy Thanksgiving,
everybody. Enjoy.
Stuff yourselves. Enjoy the holiday. Later.
Oh, yeah. See you.